Well, the concept of human development is simple, but it has far-reaching implications. I mean, human development has been defined as enlarging people's choices. And when we talk about enlarging people's choices, we talk about enlarged outcome as well as enlarged process of getting to that outcome. And when you talk about the choices, there are two sides of it. One is the capabilities. You have to enhance people's capabilities. And the other side of the equation is the opportunities. You have to expand the opportunities of people. And your human development is maximum when there is a match between the enhanced capabilities and expanded opportunities. Where it has expanded is on two fronts. One is that we have brought the whole notion of human rights as the kind of the building block for human development. Because rights give you the basis on which you can expand your choices. If you don't have rights, if your rights are violated, whatever choices you have, you cannot exercise them. The other thing that we have brought into this particular concept is the notion of human security. If you do not have security, whether it's personal security, whether it's environmental security, whether it is violence on the streets or domestic violence, for example, you cannot exercise your choices. So over the last 20 years, when I look at the concept itself, I think those are the two dimensions which have been brought into the basic concept of human development. In terms of choices, the basic human development paradigm talked about individual choices. But you also have collective choices as a community, as a country, as a society. Sometimes your individual choice and collective choice will not move in the same direction. So what do you do then? There is a kind of a tension between the community and you as an individual. So there is a trade-off in terms of policies. That needs to be looked at. Then when we talked about human development in terms of a long and healthy life, in terms of knowledge, decent standard of living, we value them equally, but they are not equally valued, neither by an individual nor by a society. And they are very much contextualized. For example, if you ask a Liberian right now, what is the priority in that country? That is the outbreak of Ebola. That's the priority. So therefore, I think we have to look at it that how we do the kind of the prioritization of different dimensions of human development. Is there a hierarchy among all those priorities or not? Because that will also determine what kind of weights you are giving to the three dimensions of human development when you are constructing the HDI or the Human Development Index. This is something I want to do in the next 2-3 years, expanding the frontiers of the basic concept of human development so that we can produce another 25 reports. First of all, when you have an average, for example, it doesn't tell you anything seriously because it unmasks a lot of disparities and inequalities which you don't see, particularly in a large country and a multi-ethnic country like Brazil. So therefore, once you disaggregate it, it's a kind of a mirror in front of you. You can see the face of the society and the country when you disaggregate them. So therefore, that's the first point I would like to make why disaggregation is necessary. The second point is that when you do the disaggregation in terms of, say, ethnicity and race, I understand this is a sensitive issue, but we have to present it in a positive way. So when we disaggregate it in terms of ethnicity or race, the issue is not that we are going to shame anybody. The issue is to understand the problem, where the sources of the problems are, and then give it a positive twist. So when you disaggregate them, celebrate the achievements that the country has made, and where there are gaps, you try to point out that where the improvements are needed. And the third reason why disaggregation is absolutely necessary, because that helps policies. Unless you disaggregate the data and see where the problems are, you cannot undertake targeted policies to deal with those issues. I think there is a lot of advocacy that is needed, there is a lot of awareness that is needed, a lot of engagement that is needed, both with your counterparts there, but also public in general. Because you have to give it a positive twist that disaggregation of Human Development Index, of Human Development Indicators are better for the country because it tells you what the situation analysis of the country, it tells you where the policies are needed, and it also tells you what should be done in future. the next human development report is, the theme is the rethinking work for human development. And there are 5 dimensions I want to highlight there. First, there should be a rethinking of expanding the notion of work. When we talk about work, we basically talk about traditional jobs and employment. But we know that in our family life, in our community life, in our society, there is the care work within the families, within societies. There is voluntary work that people do. There is also creative work, the work of the writers, the work of the painters, the work of the musicians. All these are very much conducive to human development. So we have expanded the concept of jobs and employment to talk about work in broader terms and how it is linked to human development. That's the first rethinking. The second rethinking about work, that when we talk about work, we always think that there's a positive link between work and human development. Work basically provides a livelihood to people, it enhances the dignity of people, it provides a platform to participate, it provides you with security and everything. But one should also remember that there's no automatic link between work and human development. There are certain works where human dignity is degraded, human rights are violated, and human security is not protected. The work of bonded labor, child labor, the work in trafficking for sex, for example, exploitative labor, the work of migrants in many countries, the work in extractive industries in many countries, hazardous work. These are the work where you do not enhance your human capabilities nor your opportunities, and they do not help human development. So the second rethinking should be to look at the linkage between work and human development, both in positive terms and in negative terms. The third rethinking should be, what is the world of work today? The definition and the concept of work which was here, say 50 years ago, is no longer true. For the new generation, work means different things. Work is also now more providing services and all kinds of things, and not in terms of having an office work. So that's something we have to talk about. Second, there are works that will be disappearing. There will be works that will be appearing. We now have an app economy. So with app economy, whether it's in Apple or in Samsung, there will be works for that. And in a recent study I read that the people who are not born, the children who are not born, and who will be born say from now and 20 years, their work have not been invented as yet. So therefore, that is the second dimension of it. And third dimension of it in the world of work today is the modus operandi of work has changed. You don't need an office space. You can work from anywhere as long as you have a laptop, you have a cell phone, and you have an iPad. You can work from anywhere. So therefore, I think we have to look at this new world of work and its dynamics and what are the implications for human development. The fourth rethinking, and this is I'm very passionate about it, is the whole question of care work. The care that are being provided within families and communities. And I'm very committed to it because it has a gender dimension. Most of the care work are provided by women in most of the societies. And we have seen during the HIV/AIDS in Africa in the 1990s how women who are suffering from HIV/AIDS themselves are also providing care to their spouses, to their children and others. In Africa now, there are 1 million children who are HIV/AIDS orphan because they have lost both their parents to HIV/AIDS. Their grandparents have become the caregiver to these particular groups of children. So therefore, with the new problems like say Ebola and other things, there will be more need for care work within the community. So we have to rethink about those care work there. And finally, we have to rethink about our policies and programs. I don't think the traditional employment strategy that people used to talk about is going to work. I don't think that we can also talk about only targeted interventions. I think we have to think dynamically as to how we develop the skill of the people for a new world, where new types of skill will be needed. How we basically try to sustain that kind of work, because I think for the younger generation, it is the expectation that they would change job, 6 times during their lifetime, which if I try to explain to my father, he would never understand it. He had started with one job and he finished it with that particular job. I think in today's world, the awareness about the situations, the awareness about how we are doing vis-a-vis others in our own society, that has gone up. The awareness of how we are being treated compared to some other people in some other countries, that has also gone up. And this is where the information technology comes out. I mean, with the new information technology, whatever happens to any corner of the world is known to the rest of the world pretty soon. So therefore, I think the days where you can hide things or where you can cover things are no longer true. That's the first thing. The second is that people have suffered a lot. People have suffered from inequalities, people have suffered from disparities, people have suffered from injustice in many parts of the world. So now the people want to change those kind of things. And because they want to change that kind of things, they are trying to protest, they are trying to come to the street and that kind of things. Third, we must recognize now that with all kinds of power all over the world, there is also the people's power. And the people's power basically means that people want to decide and influence the process which is going to guide their lives. They are not going to let it or leave it to the government. They are not going to leave it to the international community. They are trying to have a voice into which would determine the future of their children and their grandchildren and everything. So therefore, I think in coming days you will see that people are more on the streets, people are demanding change, people are expressing their patterns of need satisfaction and everything. And this trend will also be enhanced and will also be more because we are also living in a world with lots of shocks and vulnerabilities. And in coming years, in next 10-15 years, my prediction would be that shocks and vulnerabilities would be the norm, not the exception. And they may come from financial crisis, from economic crisis, they come from food insecurity, they come from energy crisis, they come from natural disasters, they come from terrorism. I mean, lots of the things that are happening in lots of the parts of the world. So we are living in an unequal, unsustainable, unstable world. And I think people understand that and people want to change it. That's why they are protesting. That's why they are on the street. And these are the different means through which they can participate because they want to have a voice. So when they see that the formal process is not giving voice to their demands, to their aspirations, absolutely. They will try to find a platform through which they will try to voice their anger, their frustration, their expectations. And the information technology has done a fantastic job to provide the means to do that. I think the world with well-being, with respect to human development, would basically ensure 5 things. The first thing, it would ensure that there are expanded choices for everyone, irrespective of gender, irrespective of the country, irrespective of their orientation in terms of education and everything, they will have expanded choices. The second thing that should be there, that there should be enough freedom to exercise those choices. If people don't have freedom to exercise their choices, then the choices become something abstract. You cannot do anything with that. In order to exercise their choices, there has to be expanded capabilities on their parts, but there will have to be enlarged opportunities also. So that's the third condition. The fourth dimension is basically that you must have human rights and human security to create an environment where you can exercise your choices there. And finally, I think we should put income in its true perspective. Income is a means to achieve a number of issues. But income is not the most important choice, nor income can really provide you everything with all other choices. Because in the ultimate analysis, income is not the sum total of human life. And the lack of income cannot be the sum total of human deprivation. Therefore, I think if we talk about world with well-being, these are the 5 conditions, these are the 5 dimensions that we have to make sure. And I use World with Well-being because it basically the acronym is WWW. So the younger generation can relate to it more rather than WWW, which is WWP, which is World Without Poverty. So